Okay, so my name's Sarah Richardson and I am going to answer the question, is the grading system limiting creativity? Yeah. So when I thought about this topic, when I sat down to write last week's blog, the blog that will be marked this week, and I sat at my desk and I thought, what does Jess want to see? What can I write that will get me the best possible grade? Because I was struggling for ideas. And then I almost told myself off because I realised I'd fallen into the just give me a grade trap. I didn't care what I wrote as long as I got the best possible grade. And so for as much as we talk about educational reforms and new initiatives, aren't we ourselves just writing to get the grade? We're blogging, we're commenting, we're doing talks, but aren't we ourselves doing all this for the grade? So this brought me on to the question of, I want the grade with learning a byproduct of such success, or is it that I want to learn with the grade being the byproduct? With my dissertation, I'm spending hours in the library, and I personally have got to the point, as much as I don't want this to be the case, got to the point where I'm in there with my camp bed, not for the good of my health, but for the grade. And so throughout this blog, I'm going to argue that the grading system is in fact encouraging this mentality, and this in turn is limiting creativity within students. The social exchange theory, I first came across this during my A-level module on relationships, and it suggests that we maintain our behaviour and relationships are maintained because the rewards of our behaviour outweigh the costs. And the exchange part of this phenomenon suggests that when we behave, others reinforce us, therefore we're more likely to do this behaviour again, and we're more likely to return the favours that they've given us in one sense. So with student-teacher relationships, we go to school, we go to lectures because the grade is reinforcing our studious behaviour, is reinforcing our time spent in the library, our time spent away from socialising and the things we enjoy. This reinforcement is encouraging the behaviour to occur again. And in turn, this is arguably reinforcing for the teachers as well, because we're achieving grades, we're achieving standards set, and ultimately this pleases Ofsted, so they also get rewards. However, in my opinion, this is where the problem could potentially lie, because it could be that it's the grades that are reinforcing rather than the act of learning itself. It could be a simple number crunching problem in one sense. If we were taking this from a financial point of view, we want the minimal investment put in, but the largest equity. We want to put a small amount of effort in, but to get a lot in return. And I think this is only occurring because we're focusing on the grade rather than doing it for ourselves, rather than doing it for a learning to learn type of effect. Butler in 2011, so a really quite recent study, found that when students' interest in a topic was only maintained when they were high achievers. When they achieved the high grade, it maintained their interest in a topic and they were more likely to research further and study outside of lessons. However, for students that were low achievers in terms of achieving low grades, their intrinsic motivation and effort significantly reduced throughout the term, because in relation to the social exchange theory, it could be that their studious behaviour, that their working hard, wasn't achieving the same reinforcement and the same grade because of the grades they were achieving. Therefore, in turn, they were doing this behaviour less. This leads me on to the Matthew effect, in that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. in one sense, the more able students are entering school and are already at a higher level. Their behaviour is therefore being reinforced, and the benefits of working hard is outweighing the costs of doing so. Therefore, they're more likely to do this behaviour again and get better and progress higher and ultimately achieve more. In contrast, the poor get poorer. Those students where grades aren't reinforcing for them because they're trying so hard and not coming out with the rewards, they actually get worse. So the greater the divide becomes in society. So in relation to creativity, this was the second part of my blog, I'm going to use the same definition of creativity as I have over the last few weeks, in that the creativity is the process of having original ideas, and this was proposed by Robinson. So he in relation to assignments at uni in particular, yes, we could say that we are being creative, and particularly in this module, as in we have the choice, the freedom to go and research whatever we want, and the conclusions we draw between research and the new ideas we present are our own. Therefore, arguably, we are being creative. However, ultimately, we are still being graded. There is still the grading problem in that sense. And this got me thinking about how far away would I go? What would I write? How far away from the norm, outside of the box, would I go if I didn't still receive that high grade? If I stopped receiving the high grade, would I change my behaviour to write what I thought would get me the highest grade, rather than perhaps something more creative? In society, we have these famous people and many more famous people. These are just two I thought of. And both have strong voices, and they both had new initiatives. And for them, Martin Luther King, I have a dream. The costs didn't outweigh the benefits for him, and he kept up with his creative ideas. He kept up with his thoughts, even though perhaps at some points he thought it would be an easier life just to go with the flow. And Winston Churchill, this was a saying that was on one of his school reports by his teacher Maid. He is so regular in his irregularity that I don't know what to do. And I think that kind of sums up if we're being creative, we perhaps are presenting ideas that initially are thought of outside of the box. And if the costs outweigh the benefits, we have to really assess what is the purpose of our education system. So in conclusion, if the benefits outweigh the costs, then we are more motivated, intrinsically motivated to continue, and in turn this can lead to the Matthew effect. However, the problem potentially lies in that it's the benefits of grades that are causing this reinforcement rather than the act of learning itself. Interestingly, however, when in the Butler study, when students were given comments rather than grades by their teacher, their motivation, regardless of ability, continued to improve for low, middle and high students rather than grades. Therefore, grades could potentially reduce creativity in that we tone what we say specifically to that marking scheme in one sense. And ultimately, the purpose of the education system, is it to motivate, teach and instill this love of learning, or in one sense is the education system educating such thoughts out of us? And then this got me thinking about what we do when we leave university. Do we go to jobs? Do we go to work for the love of the job? I'd love to think that we did, or are we going out there for the financial rewards that we get each month? Thank you. Jess.
So your bottom line here is that I shouldn't be grading your blogs?
Potentially, yeah. You should potentially giving us. This is where, if we don't have grades, then how would we create the hierarchy? How would we say some students excel? If maybe we don't, but then may,
Ooh, that's radical.
yeah, maybe we don't, but maybe,
So let me ask you a question.
yeah.
You just gave a really good talk. It wasn't graded. Why did you give a really good talk?
If it wasn't,
It's not graded, so why did you do a good job?
because it's an exemption task. So,
It doesn't need to be any good. You can just get up there and say, well, you know, this isn't graded, so I'm just going to blah, blah, blah for 5 minutes, and I'm done.
it's a good point.
So why do you do a good job? Because you just did a great talk. And none of us are going to grade it.
Yeah, but then I think it is still linked into the grade that you give for our blogs. We want to impress. We want to impress. So we want to.
There are 3 people who just given talks here that I haven't heard. Who are they trying to impress? Peer reinforcement.
Yeah.
Rather than grading,
Yeah.
to me, like, it's more peer reinforcement. We wouldn't want to come along and give a really bad talk and then everyone think, oh, what was bad?
I think that's a lot of the driving force behind the blogs as well. It's peer reinforcement. You know, your friends are reading this. You know, some of the comments from last year and the year before were, hey, we're not doing these blogs for Jess, we're doing it for each other.
Which is kind of what Butler found in this one, where the comments that it was a primary schools, but the comments that the teachers gave were more reinforcing than the actual grade given. They wanted that reinforcement, they wanted that feedback rather than the grade.
In terms of like when you get lower grades and things like that, so you know how we all have feedback sheets and
Yeah.
things beside themselves. Not that it should affect me so much, but it does hurt me more to read a horrible comment, not a horrible comment, obviously they're all
A constructive
they're all
comment.
constructive, but it does hurt more to read the comment of this was rather than here's a C. It hurts me more to hear a comment, and so obviously vice versa, the other way round. It is so much nicer to be told like, okay, that was brilliant. Here's an A. So you're pleased with your A, like yeah.
Yeah.
But surely then you want, it's a good thing in a way, because you want the comment to actually know where you're going wrong and where you're going well. Because if you just get a grade, it's like, you're not really, I mean, it's just a grade.
It's just more, I think there's more to it. I personally think we should have grades.
So you like the hierarchy?
Yeah. But I think Sarah secretly likes the hierarchy.
Yes, I love, but I don't think
I
so.
love it.
I love it, but I don't think society as a whole could function without the hierarchy. As in, with bosses and we need the structure to.
But I think there's different ways of doing it.
Without.
There was another forum on, I can't remember what it's called, but it's, I don't know if you read it. There's a certain type of hierarchy in schooling. It was more about like, rather than, I mean that, you know,
Yeah.
the aviation we just had, rather than blaming people,
Yeah.
it's like working together as a team.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like a whole, like loads of people.
But then, if we didn't have the hierarchy, how would
Careful
we?
where you go.
How would we?
Just because we haven't
divide-
tried it doesn't mean there's no other way.
Exactly. Which is exactly.
Would there
But
be pandemonium?
yeah, it would. Such reform's not going to happen overnight.
So the question that I would have for you on this talk,
Yeah.
has preparing and giving this talk changed the way you think about university and school?
In one sense, yes. In that if you're doing something for the best result, the way to get the best grade is by doing it for yourself, by being intrinsically motivated and doing it for yourself. But then, when you have a lot of work on and you're tired, it's really easy to get into that mindset of, I just want the grade.
I think really, you know, this particular talk, it's not graded, but if it were going to be graded, it would be an A+ talk. It was really insightful, it was really well thought out, and you were giving it for yourself, not for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Defeated.
It's a good point.
Oh,
Should
dear,
just
one more.
stop my